The future survival of the euro is at the heart of the European Commission's decision to put Greece's new policies under the closest surveillance that has ever been applied to a eurozone country. If Greece fails to handle the biggest crisis since the euro was established, Stratfor believes the problem will spread, threatening the euro itself. But can Athens deliver on its promise to balance its budget?
Oh, not at all. The Greek government has not managed to ever actually carry out a balanced budget. But I've got to say, there are very low hopes.
Welcome to Agenda with me, Colin Chapman, talking this week with Peter Zeihan. So far, the Greeks seem philosophical about a government package which will mean higher taxes, cuts in welfare and a freeze on wages for many public servants. Everyone should help this big step the government is taking, this man said, regardless of their politics. The EU has blessed the Greek package as achievable, but this week will be in Athens scrutinising the numbers. Greece has fiddled the figures before, so how credible is the latest effort?
The Europeans are hoping that the new Greek government will be able to do something that no Greek government has managed to achieve before, and that's not lie about their numbers. The Greek government has lied about pretty much everything that has to do with their accounts before, whether it's their Olympic efforts, qualifications to get into the eurozone, or any of their various budgetary data since. And so when you look at them having a budget deficit that's in the double digits of GDP per year, it's actually probably considerably worse than that. At present, the European strategy for containing the damage is very simple. They're printing currency. But this is something that only can be done for a certain amount of time, because sooner or later the other European economies are going to start to recover. And the need for all this endless liquidity is going to dry up. And we've already seen the United States, the Australians, the Norwegians, and even the United Kingdom start to dial back on all their liquidity operations. When the Europeans are forced to do that as well, Greece will be going from having a budget deficit somewhere in the vicinity of probably 15% of GDP to not being able to fund it in a very, very short period of time.
Greece matters because it's in the front line of the battle to hold European monetary union together. The EU has set 3% of GDP as the limit to which public sector deficits should reach. This limit has been widely breached, but in the so-called PIGS countries, it's much worse. In Greece, it's 12.7%, with overall government debt a huge 125% of GDP. Ireland and Spain almost as bad, with 11.7% and 11.4% respectively, and Portugal has 9.3%. All have high unemployment, with Spain expected to reach 18% jobless.
Our concern isn't so much for the pigs, ironically, though. Ireland has taken some smart steps. Spain has a lot of room that they can raise taxes should they need to. Italy is probably too big to fail. Portugal is simply too small. Our concern is actually for France and Belgium. These are countries that are core eurozone members, but their debt by almost every measure is just as bad as it is in southern Europe. And to date, the Europeans have chosen to push all of the blame and all of the focus on the pigs. But if we get to the point that Greece actually fails, it's not just going to be Spain and Portugal and Italy that are going to be following. It's going to be some very big, very serious countries.
How far are we, Peter, from an historical but inconvenient truth that no currency union has ever survived without political and fiscal union as well?
Closer than you might think. Right now, it really comes down to the Germans. The Germans on 2 occasions before have basically rescued Europe in order to create this common currency. They're probably not going to be doing it again. In the past, they really weren't issued an opinion. They were told by the rest of the Europeans the price that they would be paying. Now we have an independent government. We have a relatively new leadership. Remember that Chancellor Merkel is the first German chancellor to actually take command of Germany since the reunification process was completed. And it's going to be a very hard sell in Berlin to convince them that they need to not only pay for Greece, but for Spain, for Ireland, for Italy, for France, and for Belgium.
I'm Marla Dial with a look at the week ahead. After a weekend marked by a G7 finance ministers meeting, the Munich Security Conference, and runoff elections in Ukraine, the calendar calls for a protest march on the capital by a Bolivian indigenous group and a meeting between the presidents of Chad and Sudan, where relations appear to be warming. Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman travels to Azerbaijan on Tuesday, while the president of neighboring Armenia heads to Britain for high-level talks, and a UN official will kick off a tour of East Asia with a stop in North Korea. The goal is comprehensive talks on regional issues, possibly leading to a resumption of the six-party nuclear talks. Come midweek, look for a public sector strike over austerity measures in Greece, talks on environmental and economic issues in Helsinki, and 2 foreign dignitaries meeting with their counterparts in Seoul. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev meets with high-profile banking and energy industry leaders on Thursday as a commission moves to modernize Russia's economy, and leaders from all 27 EU countries will be in Brussels for talks on economic and climate issues. Thursday's also a day to watch events in Iran, which marks the 31st anniversary of the Islamic Revolution.